Hey friends, it's nice to be with you today. We're still doing some of the walk with Jesus in the desert. You know, Bishop Stephen, our bishop, has said, this is time in the desert. And so I've taken that as an opportunity to say, what does it look like to be in the desert with God? Books of Exodus and Numbers and Deuteronomy. What does it look like to be in the desert with God and Jesus, especially like the temptation in Matthew's gospel? Today might be the last day that I'm probably going to focus on this desert motif. Seth, the seminarian, is going to record a video, drop it tomorrow, Thursday. That'll be about Passover and Easter, some of those desert motifs again. And then we're probably going to start switching over and reflecting more on Holy Week and the passion and death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. Today's meditation, again, is short and simple. I like this because then hopefully instead of reading for information, we would be reading in order to encounter God in the living Word. Remember, if you're still wrestling with how to pray into the Scriptures, Seth and I, a week ago, on Monday of last week, recorded some videos. I did one on Lectio Divina, Holy Reading. Seth did one on the Imagination prayer style of St. Ignatius of Loyola. Both of those come with written pages that can walk you through how to engage the Scriptures. The goal would be that we would be using these meditations as launching off points, 5 minutes, 20 minutes, encountering the Lord in our prayer. Today is the third temptation of Jesus in Matthew's Gospel. It's Matthew chapter 4, verses 8 through 11. Yesterday's meditation, I think, was harder to understand. I think today's is easier to understand, but I think it might go deeper into some of the temptations that we experience in this desert time. Jesus is shown all the kingdoms of the world, and Satan says, I'll give you these if you but prostrate yourself and worship me. Jesus again quotes from the desert experience from the law, the Lord your God shall you worship, him alone shall you serve. Then the devil left him, and behold, angels came and served him, ministered to him. Maybe three things that were in my prayer as I was praying into this scripture. The first is Satan and the illusion of power. You know, it's easy to just read this and to think, oh, Satan has control of the earth. But we know, even though Satan might be opposed to God and doing his best to sow division and temptation and evil in the human family, who has the world in the palm of the hand? Who's in control? Whose plan is at work? God's, right? And like the big cosmic view is that God is bringing all creation, which means the universe, into one in Jesus Christ. And it might be useful, frankly, in these days of stress and anxiety and worry, it might be useful to just take a moment and pray into that place. Second one, of course, the Lord your God shall you worship. Him alone shall you serve. And I mentioned it in the video that I recorded this morning. I think that the desert experience that we're having might be pulling the veil back on some of the false gods that we have served, especially perhaps busyness, but also diversion and entertainment, maybe comfort, maybe a good standing in the community, maybe perfect kids, maybe a lot of experiences. We might be getting the shakes. And I mean that metaphorically more than physically. But do you find yourself inside just yearning for that old release, that old hit, those brain chemicals, whatever it is? Here I'm more talking about behaviors than I am talking about, substances and addictive things that we might think of. Has the desert pulled back some of the false gods that we have served? I don't have any solutions. Just take that to prayer. Enter in with the Scriptures and the Lord. Then finally, this image of the angels coming to Jesus and serving him, always useful in our prayer, but especially in times of stress. It's so easy to focus on what we have to do or what we lack or what we're afraid of. Do we see the way that God is just serving us? That God is ministering to us and our family and caring for us? Maybe a useful way to wrap up these 3 days of the temptation of Jesus in the desert is to call to mind the graces, the blessings, the encounters, the times that you felt the closeness of God in your life. In some ways, the presence of God. So those are a couple of thoughts that I have over this third temptation of Jesus in the desert, Matthew 4, verses 8 through 11. I pray that you would spend 5 to 20 minutes praying into the scripture, allowing the Lord to meet you through the word and growing deeper in your love for Jesus through his word. Even though we can't gather, we know that we are still church. Our love, our prayer, our small sacrifices for each other still matters because we are still a spiritual communion. I'm praying for you. I appreciate your prayers for me. Let's definitely remember to keep praying for each other.